right, everybody. Welcome to the Charlie Kirk Show. This is Andrew Colvet, executive producer of this show, joined by Blake Neff, our not-so-secret weapon. So you're going to love this eventually. You are going to love it. So I want to start with just a praise report from last night at Montana State University, where the Turning Point Tour, we call it This is the Turning Point campus tour, had its next stop. And look at these images for you watching at home or on the stream. This place is packed in Montana. This is not a population center, Blake. And the amount of energy in this room was so extraordinary. They were chanting, they were jumping up and down, and then Vivek Ramaswamy, left his campaign in Ohio, by the way, where he's attempting to be the next governor of the state of Ohio, to come speak with our students, which just, again, shows the amount of commitment that the Friends in the Movement have for what we're doing at Turning Point. Let's go ahead and play cut 88, and just to give you a small sample of just how raucous this crowd was at Montana State University.
You wonder if that could be the maybe that'll just be our catch-all positive chant, almost like USA.
Yeah.
I could imagine just seeing that break out years into the future, just as a good.
I totally agree.
We should have.
I'll never forget the first time I heard the Charlie chant. It was actually at Politicon in that amazing jank moment that has gone viral.
Oh, where he went nuts. Oh,
yeah. The viral clip, and then Charlie walks out of the venue. I'm with him. Actually, Erica was there too, and it was all these young guys just go, Charlie, Charlie, and I remember going like, wow.
He's lucky. He's got a nice chantable name.
He's got a great chantable name.
Yeah.
Andrew doesn't work
gotta have
as well.
the two syllables.
Blake.
Yeah, Blake's not going to work. No.
So, but you know what this was for me, Blake? It was a clarifying moment, because we've been through a lot in the last couple days and weeks, and there's been a lot of fixation on the who, right? The like, who killed Charlie? Well, they've got the suspect, okay? Mm-hmm. We feel really good about that case. It's very strong. Here's what I will say, though. What we need to make this about is the what. Mm-hmm. And that is the fact that we are back on campus, that we're talking about the ideas, we're dialoguing with students, we're dialoguing about the fact that we should be having a dialogue, that we should not be using violence, that we should not be using political violence, that we need to call that out and basically root and stem from this country, because we're seeing these very disturbing trends. And that's what Turning Point is all. That is why. You want to know why Turning Point is so important right now, is because we have always been about the debate. We've always been about the dialogue. We've always been about having the conversation, because that's what America is supposed to be about. And yet there's this really disturbing story that's coming out of Washington, D.C., where a man is targeting has been discovered with explosives at the Red Mass. So
exactly.
Tell us about
so, all right. So, for those who don't know, the Red Mass is a thing that happens once a year around the start of the Supreme Court term. It has its roots in the Middle Ages. It's like a very formal thing that it's like a Catholic Mass that's sort of dedicated to lawyers, which it's already a scary thing, religious rituals and lawyers. Ooh, don't mix well. But anyway,
Red
so
Mass
it's a traditional thing.
Is a weird
get dressed up,
yeah.
and it's of course become a big deal because so many of the conservative Supreme Court justices in recent years have been Catholic. They often go to this service, and then a lot of other Catholic lawyers will attend it as well. And so this man, Louis Gary, 41 years old, he apparently was in a tent in front of the church when police arrived to clear the area, because there were going to be a bunch of Supreme Court justices there. And then this guy clearly doesn't seem to have it all right in the head, because he's just got a tent in front of this church. And then when the police approach, he says, "Get away. I have a bunch of explosive devices." They said over 200, which sounded to me like, did he have just a bunch of fireworks or something? But what it was is apparently they were all homemade. There were vials of nitromethane. And it appears he was basically making homemade Molotov cocktail type things that he told officers that the vials were intended to be used as grenades with rubber bands to secure the fuse, according to court records. He was in possession of Molotov cocktails and modified bottle rockets covered with aluminum foil and treated in a pyrotechnic solution. The devices appeared fully functional, so it seems. He said, "You might want to stay back and call the federales. I have explosives," Gary said. Now, we're fortunate. This guy just appears to have been pretty nuts, so not really capable of pulling off a complicated attack scheme. But I think he's very indicative. Just last week, we had the sentencing of the attempted assassin of Brett Kavanaugh. That guy was a lot more systematic in his approach. He figured out how can I get a gun? How can I get an approach? He had like wire cutters and a knife and an axe. All these things.
It was a serious,
very serious attempt. Very serious attempt. Flew across the country to do it, and then would have done it, except he had a failure of nerve when he saw federal agents outside Kavanaugh's house. Turned himself in, and then this federal judge says, I feel bad for you because you'd have to go to a men's prison, and now you say you're a transgender woman. So I'm only going to give you 8 years. You've already served 3. You could be out, 3 years from now. And then when his own lawyer said, the judge got angry when someone referred to this as a political attack, because judges aren't political. Judges aren't political. There's no political agenda that could come into play when possibly doing one of these. And so, yeah, we're seeing this environment that people are marinating in because the left has used this, they use the fascist word a lot. They use the Nazi word a lot. They really whip people up anytime there's these rulings related to things like child gender transitions, things like that. They won't say like, oh, this is a bad ruling. They will say they're denying your existence. They will say they are trying to destroy your right to exist.
Right. Well,
they're using this totalizing, they're going to kill you rhetoric.
Well, and this is why in the aftermath of what happened to Charlie, it was so important that there was all of these accounts, and a major hat tip to libs of TikTok. I certainly didn't have the brain space to even do this, but I saw, you go on Twitter, everybody's outing these people celebrating, because ultimately that is a culture that's celebrating death, fetishizing political violence. And that's why I think it's important that we were trying to get some of these people fired. I think that's completely
We need a taboo on political assassination.
1,000%. Also, though, you need judges to not give leniency to potential assassins. This is the direct through line between these two cases, is that you have leniency on a potential assassin, and then, lo and behold, a week later, this happens, where a guy's sitting outside of where all the justices are going to be with explosives. Yeah, he's a Looney Tunes. He's crazy. But you have to understand, if you do not enforce the law, if you do not punish evildoers, society will fall apart.
I love this headline. NBC4 Washington had a tweet about this. A man who had vials of liquid was arrested outside the cathedral. Impossible Fireworks was arrested outside the Cathedral of St. Matthew. And then it has the readers added a note. The vials of liquid were Molotov cocktails.
It's one of the all-time great.
It could have just been, could have been his Diet Coke.
One of the all-time great community notes on X. But yeah, I mean, here's the thing. We need to make sure that the evildoers are punished. We need to make sure the taboo remains in full force, full strength. And that's why people getting fired from their jobs is completely appropriate. When you celebrate violence, when you act like a vile, ghoulish person, or when you're like Jimmy Kimmel and you try and lie about who's behind a certain attack, and then you're going to double down on it, then yeah, you deserve consequences and you deserve the backlash, because the taboo is important and critical for our society. But more than that, we need actual consequences.